my fellow comic book collectors, it's Alan, the Comic Collector Geek, and this is the Wednesday video where I answer your questions. And I'm coming to you in 4K because somebody last week asked me, well, they recommended that I did it in 4K because most of my viewers are actually watching this show on their TVs. So I'll be on big screen and this will be a lot clearer probably. So one question I have for you watching this show is, does it actually make a big difference when I go from 1080 to 4K? Tell me in the comments below. And also, I'll probably not stick with 4K. I'll probably go back to 1080, but just tell me in the comments below and I'll think about it. I might stick with 4K. It takes a little bit longer to upload and there's a lot more involved. And also takes up a lot of space on my phone. Okay, with all that being said, let's get into the questions. First question comes from Stepify, or Collecto6, my partner on the Monday special, Stephen Gentner. He asked, could you please do a deep dive into the history and facts of the Canadian white comics? Who were the publishers? Who were the printers? During the Second World War, how many different Canadian whites were produced? Who were the cover artists for the duotone Anglo-American comics? Okay, so actually I produced a full history. It's not going to answer every question that you had there, but I'll do my best. Canadian whites were comics that came out during 1941 to 1946. They were primarily part of what was happening with the Second World War and introduced in order to basically what was happening was the government was worried about Canadian business and they wanted to basically protect those businesses by creating the War Exchange Conservation Act, which basically created a trade embargo between Canada and the United States. As a result, you could not import certain products into Canada, like comic books. Well, as a result, people still wanted to read comic books, and it basically created an industry within Canada to create comic books. Now, there were four primary companies that did the Canadian whites, and they were Maple Leaf, Anglo-American, Bell Features, and Educational Projects. Now, the reason they're called Canadian whites, and I'll show you my very first Canadian white that I ever picked up, is this one. This is from Anglo-American. And the reason they're called Canadian whites is they had these duotone covers. During the war, resources were limited, paper was limited, and these Canadian whites were done in the cheapest way possible. You'll notice that the paper is very thin. It's so thin that it actually it's falling apart. And you can actually see the interior where it's black and white. And the reason they're called Canadian whites is because they're black and white, the white paper, versus the American counterparts, which were done in color. So they referred to them as Canadian whites. Now, the four companies I mentioned, the first actually to produce Canadian whites was Vancouver's Maple Leaf Comics. So they're on the west coast of Canada, Maple Leaf. They were the first publisher of Canadian whites, as I said. They produced titles like Better Comics, Rocket Comics, Bing Bang Comics, and Lucky Comics. They produced a total of 133 different comics during that period. And their very first superhero, the Canadian superhero, was in Better Comics #1, which was in March of 1941, which it was the character Iron Man. Not related to Marvel's Iron Man, but it was Iron Man. So we actually had the very first Iron Man in comics. Yeah. Next publisher was Anglo-American. They were also known as AA because they had, like, they would abbreviate their name to AA, so AA. So Anglo-American started publishing in Toronto, and they introduced Freelance as one of their characters, And they also had a whole bunch of Fawcett characters that they republished, including Captain Marvel Jr., Spy Smasher, Bullet Man, Bullet Girl, all of the Marvel ones that you can think of were republished in the Canadian Whites from Anglo-American. And Anglo-American actually was the biggest of all of them in terms of the number of titles that they produced. And they had 299 comics associated to them. The next is Bell Features. Bell Features was also in Toronto. It came up with characters like Johnny Canuck, Nelvana, the Penguin, and Iron Fist. Their flagship titles were Dime Comics, Triumph Comics, Active Comics, and Commando Comics. They produced a total of 281 different comics over the years. And the other title was other company was from Montreal. They were educational projects, and they would have sort of educational books. I don't know, and they had 31 titles that they ended up, not 31 titles, 31 comics that they produced over the years, for a total of 744 Canadian Whites. If you want to get the entire Canadian White collection, there's 744 comics that you'd need to buy. Okay. Now, the very first truly Canadian character was Nelvana of the Northern Lights. She was the first superhero with a Canadian national identity. She graced the pages of Triumph Comics, and #1 was where she made her first appearance. And in fact, Nelvana actually predated Wonder Woman by 4 months. So kind of cool. She would come to the aid of like Indigenous people, and she would be able to ride the Northern Lights. That was one of her cool little powers. And she had her brother, who was also sort of a deity, that was transformed into a dog, who she could also fly on the back of. So yeah. But in 1946, the Canadian White era ended, where the War Exchange Conservation Act was repealed, and soon afterwards, the American comics started flooding back into Canada, and a lot of the Canadian White publishers went out of business. The last to kind of fade out were Bell Features. They were the last to survive from this era, but they did kind of reinstitute the War Measures Act, like some similar thing, that lasted up till 1953, and there was a bit of a reprieve in terms of the companies going out of business. But then you had companies like Superior coming into play. So there was a little bit. They weren't necessarily considered Canadian Whites, though. They were kind of a later phase of the Canadian publishers, but they also went out of business. They just couldn't compete with better quality stuff that was coming out of the US. The Canadian publishers did try, though. They actually came out with some color versions later on in their publishing era, during the later years of the Canadian White phase, but it just didn't work. They just couldn't compete. One other thing to note, a lot of the artists for these books were ones that were used from the U.S. Like for example, in Anglo-American, a lot of the ones were just, they'd repurpose American art, and a lot of the ones that did it in Canada were not necessarily recognized. It was not like, if you look up CG census on these books, it doesn't necessarily say who the artists are. Dingle is one of the more famous ones that was associated. He was the one that created Nirvana, for example. But that's about it. So hopefully that answers your question to some extent. But at least I gave you the numbers. I knew what the numbers were. Okay. Next question comes from Patriot, who wrote, are there are vintage pocketbooks comics worth collecting? It depends on what you mean by that, and I'm going to show you two that are worth collecting. Now, so one of the ones I'm going to show you is this one. Now, this is like one of those pocket books. It's actually a text story inside. It's not a comic book. But the reason I show this is because of the comic book relation. So this is Alex Schomburg cover. And a lot of these kind of like good girl or more sexy or spicy books, like these pocket books, were ones that had comic artists doing the covers. And just there's that connection. So I figured I'd show it as an example of some that are collectible. And I'd actually recommend that you look through used bookstores or things like that where they do have these, and look for the comic artists that were involved. And you can find some really good ones that actually have pretty high resale value. Okay, so I just wanted to mention that. That's sort of an aside. Here's an example of a pocket comic. Somebody actually asked this question before. Well, here's a pocket comic with that is definitely worth collecting. It's a low grade. This is from Harvey Comics and from 1941, Joe Simon cover. And this is actually the very first cover appearance of the Black Cat. And the issue before it was her first appearance. These were very popular pocketbooks. They were usually 5 cents or 10 cents. But the problem was they were easily stolen, and that caused real problems in terms of, making money from them. There are some that are worth collecting. For example, the true name of pocket comics. They're fairly valuable, and they're worth collecting. Now, there are other ones like the Archie digests and stuff that are pocket size that people do collect. They're not as popular as, say, the Archie comics themselves, but some of the covers do feature good girl art or some more sexy art for Archie. And those ones are valuable, and they can be very collectible. So it's really, look at the cover. If it has sort of a sexy Betty or Veronica on it, maybe has some potential. Other ones that are kind of collectible in terms of pocketbooks are some of the Gold Key digests, where they would there's one with the first appearance of Scooby-Doo. It's in actually one of the digests. It's the golden something I forgot what the title is. Golden something digest, and number 7, I believe. And that has the very first appearance of Scooby-Doo. So there are some that are collectible. It's not as easy as standard comic books to say that they're collectible. It's more like really rare, these more obscure keys. For example, another key would be one of the Mad digests. Has the very first appearance of Alfred E. Newman. So that's a key book just because it has the first appearance of a character. So there's things like that where they do have some value, but they're the exception rather than the rule. Okay, next question comes from Brian LCS. Who just put on the Comic Book Community Awards and did a great job. What ways can we market the CBC Awards to attract a bigger audience? Okay, so actually I think, Brian, for the most part, you're doing a good job. One of the ways that you can probably market it more is to do what you did with me. Get onto channels and talk about the Comic Book Community Awards. For example, I interviewed Brian, and I know several other channels did the same, where they interviewed Brian and they promoted him. One channel I'd really recommend that you get on and see if they will do an interview with you would be Comic Tom or Gem Mint. Some of the bigger channels that can really get the word out about the Comic Book Community Awards. Um, I One of the things that I commented when I did a recent video about the Comic Book Community Awards was that I really felt that you should have higher tiers that really cater to the bigger channels. It's those bigger channels that if you can get them excited about the Comic Book Community Awards and they start promoting, oh, that we're in the Comic Book Community Awards, and you know, and they start talking about it to their audiences, that will really drive a lot of views to the awards. So really, it's engaging those bigger channels. Now, the little channels like mine or smaller channels, we will drive a little bit of traffic to you, but really you want to get those bigger channels to be involved. And it's really about just reaching out to them and saying, hey, look, we're putting on these awards. We've been doing it for the last few years. Do you want to be part of it? And can I come on your channel and talk about the awards? And just kind of schmooze with them and really like leverage their success, the bigger channels, and get the eyeballs onto the awards. So that's really the easiest way. I actually don't recommend advertising or anything else. I really just recommend engaging with those bigger comic book influencers. Okay, next question comes from Sea Dog's Work. Should I be bothered that YouTube knows what sort of device each of your viewers is watching on? So last time I was talking about my analytics, and I showed how YouTube really knows what device you're on and how you're watching it and whatever. I wouldn't be too worried about it. The thing is, anything you do online, they track. Everything is tracked in terms of what device you use, where you're located, and they even know a little bit about your demographics, how old you are, what gender you are, all that stuff. There's a lot of information about everybody and what they're doing online, which is a little bit disturbing, a little bit dystopian, but that's just the way it is. There are things you can do to kind of protect yourself, but even like using a VPN where you can hide your location, still they'll know what device you're using. There's like cookies that are tokens that are, it's called a token, that are exchanged where allows you to stream, where they will be able to know what kind of device you're on. And they actually serve the content based on your device. So for example, this is recorded in 4K. Well, if you're on an iPhone, it's going to not give you 4K. It's going to actually reduce the resolution so that it can better serve you and it won't be a slower stream. Things like that. So there are things that they do based on that information to actually provide you a better service. Take that with whatever way you want, but it is what it is. Next question comes from Comic Binge. How's the SOTI collection going? Is it now complete? No, it's not complete. I'm actually 2 comics away from completing my SOTI collection. And if you watch this current unboxing, I'll actually show you the 3rd book that I was missing to complete the SOTI collection. And I'll actually do a special. It's going to be in the finale for this current unboxing where I'll be showing a little bit of my better SOTI books and that new one that I picked up. So wait for that. It should be a good episode. Okay, next question comes from Open by Chance, and he wrote, how about your favorite circus related covers? I don't really have that many circus related covers, but I thought of 2 when you asked the question, and I thought of this one, Batman. And this is Batman number 103, I think, 103. And you can see the clowns, and there's Bat Hound and Batman and Robin. And this was actually a pretty cool book because this is where we go from Golden Age Batman to Silver Age Batman. So kind of a key book as well, and circus cover. The other circus book that I could think of off the top of my head was this one. And this is International Comics number 4, another circus one with a clown. It's got a bit of a horror, pre-code horror feel to it because like the clown is kind of doing something nasty where he's feeding them to the lions. um, and this was actually EC Comics attempt to test out different genres and to see which ones readers wanted to buy. They tested out detective or crime related comics. They tested out Good Girl, and they tested out superhero, and they tested out funnies, and they tested out horror. So it turned out that people seemed to gravitate towards the horror comics. So they decided to use, because of this experiment that they ran, they realized that, hey, maybe we'll take EC Comics and go full on horror with them. And soon after, a lot of their titles went from crime comics to pre-code horror. So those are some of the ones that I have, Circus covers. I don't really have that many. I couldn't find too many. Okay, next question comes from Copycat Comics. I would like to ask, how was the growth of your channel this last month since you were mentioned in the Comic Book Community Awards until this month that you won the award for the Monday live show? Did your views increase a lot? Did you get many new subscribers? What's your feedback during the last few months? Okay, the interesting thing is maybe the opposite of that. Actually, I noticed a dip, and maybe there was something going on with YouTube, but I noticed a sort of a dip with my channel. Typically, my channel gets about 1,000 views per day, but it sort of dipped to around 800 views per day, which is a little bit low for me, about 20% drop. And this was during the Comic Book Community Awards. Now, I've sort of changed up a few of the things that I do on my channel to try to get more attention and get people back into watching my videos, which has improved things. So I'm back where I was before. It's sort of weird. Like I sort of dipped during the Comic Book Community Awards phase. And also my subscribers dipped. I was getting, like before the Comic Book Community Awards were announced, I was getting anywhere from 80 to a little bit over 100 new subscribers per month. Afterwards, I was getting about 40 to 60. It was like half. I don't know why. It was just like really just faded for a little bit. I've sort of picked up since then again, but every so often I go through these weird stretches where it's a little bit slow. And that's what it was during the Comic Book Community Awards. So I think the Comic Book Community Awards is great for smaller channels. It really does benefit them because it gets their, gets people to notice them. For me, it hasn't necessarily been a benefit because of the fact that most of the people within that smaller group will already know who I am. And if they liked me, they would already subscribe to me. If they don't like me, well, they probably haven't subscribed to me. So generally that's where it's been with me. Yeah, I don't know. It's sort of weird. Hopefully things will turn around and I'll start become a big channel. My goal is to be like 10,000 subscribers. That's my ultimate goal. And that way I'll be cool in front of my kids. Because they said if I can get to 10,000 subscribers, then I'm cool. So that's my goal. Kurumas asked, in the modern day comics, I always wonder who buys the holiday specials. People buy them. So those holiday specials can be kind of cool. They'll do some fun covers. And usually that's what encourages people to buy them. If they do like some fun covers or whatever, generally people will buy those holiday specials. So there are people that buy holiday specials. I sometimes buy them as well. Okay, How's It Boy asked, do you have a complete Wonder Woman and Sensation comic run? I'd love to see some of the highlights. I don't have the complete Sensation comics run, but I actually have a pretty good, well, I have the complete Wonder Woman run. But I do have a pretty good Sensation collection as well, but not near complete, not even close. Like maybe I have about, I think there's like 112 issues or 110, somewhere around there. And I have maybe like 15. I don't know, so like 1/10 of the collection. But I'll show you the highlights of those books, and just move things around a little bit here. I'll grab my Sensation first. So these are the 4 of my Sensation comics. We're gonna start out with number 69. Just a great Magic cover, and this is actually the 2nd appearance of the Huntress. So I always love this cover. I like Magic covers. I always think they're cool. So it's a fun one. Actually, strangely, I actually prefer many of the covers in Sensation over Wonder Woman. Yeah, so, but that one I definitely like. And so that's a highlight for me. Next one is Sensation Comics number 68, which is actually the 1st appearance of the Huntress. So that's another cool one. And these were done by H.G. Peter. He did a lot of the Wonder Woman and Sensation covers. And the next kind of big one for Sensation Comics is Sensation Comics number 2. I actually have the run from 1 to 6 of Sensation Comics. Okay, so, or 7, maybe. So yeah, this is Sensation Comics number 2. It's the very first appearance of Etta Candy, kind of Wonder Woman's sidekick and kind of a major character for Wonder Woman, and just a key character. And last Sensation Comics that I'll show is Sensation Comics number 1, which is the very first cover appearance of Wonder Woman, and it's the very first appearance of Mr. Terrific and Wildcat. So kind of a huge book in terms of lots of key elements to it. I always love the cover as well for this book, and it's just a classic book. Mine's a bit rough. You can see it's a 0.5 because it's missing the centerfold. So yeah, if it wasn't for that, it'd be a huge book. Yeah, it's still expensive, even that one. Okay, next. Oh, one second, I have to grab it. Oh, this one's heavy. So those are my Sensation. Well, you asked about my Wonder Woman. Well, here are my Wonder Womans. We're gonna do it in order. We'll go number 1 on Wonder Woman number 1. Obviously, that's her first title. Then we have Wonder Woman number 2. And this has a few keys about it. Origin and first appearance of Mars. And it also has a William Marston photo cover inside, who is the creator of Wonder Woman. So that's number 2. Then we have number 3. So another cool book. This one has Paula Van Gunther appearance and full page ad for Comics Cavalcade number 1. So it's kind of cool. And then we got Wonder Woman number 4. And this has nothing. I was going to say it's something special, but it isn't. This one is a really rough one as well. It's missing the centerfold, and yeah, and a whole bunch of things are detached. So it's a really rough grade, but I was just happy to get it in my collection. So this is number 4 from 1943, and then we have number 5. And this has actually the first appearance of Dr. Psycho, the Duke of Deception, and Mur's appearance. So, kind of a cool book. That's Wonder Woman number 5. And this is another big one, Wonder Woman number 6, which is the first appearance of the Cheetah. Just a classic book. And it's... this one is missing page 11. So, it's just sad. It doesn't affect the Cheetah story, at least, which is important. Okay. And Wonder Woman number 7. So I just showed 1 through 7. And this is Wonder Woman for President, which is also just a fun issue. And we'll go to Wonder Woman 37, which is the first appearance of Circus. Kind of a cool cover as well. It's getting to be a high stack here. I'm going to have to move it down. One sec here. Let's move it down. Just one sec. Oh. Just that way it's not going to fall over. I drop all my expensive Wonder Woman. Okay. Okay, so next is Wonder Woman 53. And this is the first time you see the lie detector used. And yeah, it's just a really great, it's just because Marston was the one that created the lie detector. So it's kind of a cool book for that reason. And the next book is Wonder Woman 98, which is the very first Silver Age Wonder Woman. So they kind of change up, give her a bit of a different origin story. And it's the first Ross Andru and Mike Exposito cover where they're working together. Okay. And the last one is Wonder Woman 205. I just love this cover. And it is a highlight because it's my birthday book. This came out when I was born. So I think that's kind of appropriate that she's in bondage on the cover. And it's a classic cover. It's like her on a bomb. I think it's a Brian Bolden cover. No, Nick Hardy cover. Nick Hardy. So those are some of the highlights from my Wonder Woman collection. As I said, I do have the complete Wonder Woman collection. It's 329 books. It's a pretty massive collection. And it's, runs from 1941 all the way up to the mid or late 70s. So yeah, so that's it. Okay, next one is Mark Webb wrote, "This is inspired by part 12 of your current unboxing. What are the comics you own that are in the worst condition that you haven't upgraded simply because of rarity or obscurity?" Okay, I was talking about Canadian Whites earlier, and I did show that one Canadian White, which I actually did recently try to upgrade. I actually saw a copy on Heritage, but it went for more than I wanted to spend just to upgrade my book. And it's one of those things, like they're hard to find and they're hard to upgrade for that reason. The other Canadian White that I have that is a coverless copy, and it's just hard to upgrade because like 3 exist. It's like really hard to, is Triumph Adventure Comics #1. And this is the first appearance of Nelvana, just to really enunciate that L. And this is just a hard book to upgrade because good luck finding a copy. I think there's, as I said, I believe there's only 3 known to exist. And they're probably like either in a museum or in some private collector's collection that won't let them go. So yeah, I'll show you it back as well since it's coverless. Okay, so those are some of the ones that I haven't upgraded. Other ones that I probably love to upgrade would be my Sensation 1, just because it'd be cool to have a full copy. It's sad that it's missing the centerfold, but that is what it is. Okay, next question comes from Kurmas. Have you read the Christopher Priest Vampirella? Believe it or not, somebody asked me this question a while ago, and I did answer it at the time. I'm going to answer it again now. I did read it. I didn't really enjoy it. I know a lot of people really liked the Christopher Priest Vampirella. I thought it was so-so. I found it a little bit hard to follow sometimes. It was kind of all over the place. So yeah, no, I thought it was okay. But yeah, I'm not sure if I really like the whole psychiatrist thing, and I didn't like the lesbian part. So there's things like that that kind of bothered me. But yeah, that's that's what I thought of it. Okay. Robbie Josephs wrote, uh, what are and could be your three favorite good girl uh, good girl books, and potentially a fourth option if possible. Okay, so I'm going to show you a bunch of good girl ones. Uh, and these are actually, like, I could easily replace these with others because there are some, like some of the juniors and sunnies I'd actually like to include. But some of my favorite juniors and sunnies I've sent off to get graded, so I don't have them anymore. Um, so well, once they get back, I'll have them, but I don't have them currently. But I'm going to show you some of my favorites if it wasn't for that. So first, I'm going to show you probably one of my favorite. I just love this one so much. This is Scarlett O'Hara, number 3. I just always loved this cover. I always thought it was great. I think it's Dan DiCarlo that did it. So yeah, just a really classic good girl cover. Okay. Next one is Wonder Comics number 15. I always love this book. It's a nice Alex Schomburg cover. And you got her in bondage on the cover there. I just love the little girl, and I just love all the details that Alex Schomburg puts into his covers. You got, she's wearing a red, not dress, but red short, I'm not even sure what it is, short skirt. And she's, just great bondage cover. Okay, next one is just a classic good girl art cover. This is Susie. It's just a cute one where, she's a bit ditzy. And this one, she's saying, "Hello, gas company. I'm not sure, but I think there is a leak in my gas stove." She's like blown a hole right through her wall. It's like, and she's like totally like disheveled from the explosion. So just a really cute one. Susie number 51. And probably one of the most famous good girl art covers is Archie 50. This is one where she's a bit suggestive. She says, "Oh, you called the wrong number, but come over and I'll refund your nickel." It's also a great sweater headlight cover as well. Just a really cool book. Just a classic. Probably the grail for good girl art covers. That is that one. This next one is just one I always thought was cute. This is Dizzy Dames number 4. I always love this cover. I just think it's the cutest thing. I like her wearing kind of the bikini top, and she's about to milk the chickens. I just think it's just a classic one. Dizzy Dames was sort of these kind of not so smart girls like Veronica. This is Veronica, who would just do silly things. It was kind of fun. Okay, so those are my good girl art covers. I have so many to choose from. Those are just a few of them. I hope you enjoyed them. Okay. Next question comes from Matt Likes Comics. Do you know why Marvel Comics from the 1990s have interior pages that curl if not stored properly? More so than other companies? Yes. The reason being was in the early 90s, Marvel switched from newsprint to cover stock and glossy interior page paper. And the problem with that was the card stock covers and the interior pages. Whenever there was like moisture or like humidity issues, they would have like sort of a differential, like that they would like, and that would cause the pages to curl. It's a weird thing, I know, but it's due to the fact that you got this thick cardstock and then thinner glossy paper inside, and the moisture would have that weird effect where it caused the pages to curl. So store your comic books correctly and you won't have that problem, but make sure that it's in a low humidity environment. Who knew, right? Okay, next question comes from Stan. Do you have any British comics from the 1940s, 50s, and 60s? Not many, but I do have some of the Alan Class comics, and I'll show you the ones I have. I'll grab them. They're right here. So these are the Alan Class ones, which were really just reprints from the American comics. I don't have any of the more famous like British comics where it was like, you know, their own characters. But sorry, but I do have these ones, which are the British reprints. So this is Secrets of the Unknown, Sinister Tales, and these would just reprint different ones, and you know they'd actually have the ones you could collect in the back. And then we got Creepy Worlds. And more Creepy Worlds. Astounding stories. And more of them. A little bit of a bondage cover. This is one of the Marvel Monster ones. Sinister Tales. Secrets of the Unknown. And these were pretty thick. You can see like they're pretty thick. They're all black and white inside. So you can see what they look like inside. But these, as I said, they would reprint the Marvel ones. And then we got Secrets of the Unknown. And Amazing Stories of Suspense. So just a small collection. I don't really have a big British collection. I do have some of the price variants for British editions as well, like for some of the American comics, but not really any of the specific to Britain, like Beano or something like that. I don't have those in my collection. Sorry. Next question comes from Felix Maldonado. Maldonado. I'm messing up your name. He asked for more Christmas covers, please. Well, I'm going to show you some more Christmas covers. We got Samurai Santa, #1. This is actually the first Jim Lee published work. So that's kind of fun. Then we have the What If Christmas Special. This actually has the very first appearance of Bart Simpson in it. He makes a little cameo inside of it. And then we have the Marvel Holiday Special. See, people do buy the holiday specials. And this actually has the very first appearance of Santa Claus in Marvel. There he is on the back. That's why I use the clear board for this one. So Santa's on the back. So yeah. And then we have Santa Claus Funnies. This is from 4-color number 61. And this is actually the first Golden Age appearance of Santa. Now, he appeared earlier, but this is the first Golden Age appearance of Santa. So yeah, so that's those are some of my more Christmas covers. I'm going to actually show more Christmas covers in one of my cover challenges, so look forward to that in the future. So stay tuned for that. TJR wrote, what are 2 or 3 Golden Age pre-code horror comics that are not in your current collection and you would seriously pursue if they came up for sale at a current auction? Okay, so I'm kind of trying to get all the major pre-code horror covers, like Chamber of Chills and all those ones. But there are a few that I'm missing. Now, the first one I'm going to say technically isn't pre-code horror, but is often associated with pre-code horror, which is Punch 12. That's a big book. I'm not sure if I would love to go after it. I might go after it once I win the lottery. And But it's not really a pre-code horror comic because it's actually crime, but it has a great pre-code horror cover with the giant skull and people falling out of it. Classic pre-code horror cover, but it's not pre-code horror. The other two that I can think of would be Haunted Thrills #6 and Venus #19. Now, Haunted Thrills is one where it's like the skull throwing the dice, really cool cover. Venus 19 is another cool cover where the guy is like peeling off his face. those are some of the bigger ones that I'm missing. And once I have that, I'll have a pretty good pre-code horror collection. So yeah, those are the three I could think of. Frank Terry wrote, Alan, do you consider just going full golden age and selling off the rest of your bigger books? No. I do like my other books. I do like my Silver Age, and I do like my modern bronze and all that kind of stuff. I just happened to finish those collections earlier. So before COVID, I pretty much had all the major key books for all the other ages before COVID. So that was like 6 years ago. I had all the pretty major books, like, Fantastic Four #1, Amazing Fantasy 15, and all those kind of big books. I sort of had already got those out off my want list. But it doesn't mean that I don't like them anymore. I still like those books. I just don't need them anymore. So I've been gravitating to more of the golden age, where there's a lot more books that I don't have and I'd really like to have in my collection. I find that I'm gravitating to getting runs of golden age books too. So that's why I'm spending a lot more time on the golden age. I really do enjoy the golden age, and the other ages don't seem as cool to me anymore as a result of me kind of spending so much time on golden. But it doesn't mean that I don't like them at all. Don't get me wrong. I think they're actually cool ages as well. I just gravitate more to the golden age right now. But doesn't so I'll keep the other ones. I'm really happy to have all my key first appearances. I really do enjoy those. But yeah, I'll keep them for now. Ask me in 20 years. I'm thinking of selling everything in 20 years' time. When I'm retiring, I'll kind of maybe use my retirement age to sell off my comics. Okay, Kreischeck wrote, are there any older videos you'd recommend to newer viewers from your comic channel history, YouTube channel history? There's a lot of videos I'd recommend from my the past videos. I have over 1,000 videos on YouTube. Pretty much all of them are good. I never understood why the watch time, after the first 2 days, it just goes flat. Just like nobody watches the older videos, but a lot of them are really great. So I did a series on restored comics and whether or not they're a good investment. Great little series. Look for that. Any of the ones where Steven and I do the Monday special, even though, those are older, they're actually great to watch. The one where Steven does his CGC unboxing is hilarious. Definitely recommend you watch that. It's hilarious in a bad way. Like, I feel bad for Steven because he's like on the verge of tears because, he got a whole bunch of books back from CGC and they screwed him. They just screwed him over so bad. It's quite painful. A lot of them, some of them were restored, some of them, and he got a big bill from them just for grading costs. It was brutal. But it was an interesting video to watch. I did many videos on key first appearances, and there's just so many things on my channel. I just recommend go through my channel history and just watch videos. There's a lot to watch. I did set up some playlists of some of the like different content ones, like the unboxing ones. I'm actually thinking of creating, and this was recommended to me by Pop Comics, um, who recommended that I take some of my unboxing series and put them into one video where it's a longer video and you can just let it play. I'm thinking of doing that. So there's just a ton of stuff that probably deserves to be watched that nobody's watching now. It seems like people only watch the videos that I published this week kind of level. It's always the new stuff that people watch, but doesn't mean that there's a lot of stuff that hasn't been watched recently that's really good. So yeah, check that. Just go through my archive really. Kurmas, another question from Kurmas, wrote, "Do you know how in the Golden Age, like every superhero was a millionaire? How many superheroines were rich, super rich?" The ones that I can think of are like Lady Luck, Miss Mask, um, what else? Those were the kind of the big ones. I think Blonde Phantom as well. Um, I mean, that was kind of a trope that they would have like the sort of like the socialite being bored, and then they would fight crime on the side. So it was kind of a common thing. Um, so a lot of the characters were like that. But if you think about like Wonder Woman and all those, they weren't rich. Catwoman really wasn't rich. She wasn't really a hero though. In the Golden Age. Who else? I can't really think of any others right now off the top of my head, but I would say that those three would be the ones that would be the most obvious. Last question comes from K Munin. What is your favorite Vampirella storyline? And have you read the new Vampirella Armageddon series? What is your favorite Vampirella cover? Okay, so my favorite storyline, and it's more because it was one of the first storylines that I read more than anything else, was the storyline where it's like in the early Vampirella where she first started in the magazine, and basically they were setting up the situation where Vampirella had to get blood, like she had to drink blood, so she was killing, she was killing random people because she was thirsty, she was hungry, and they sort of set up this storyline where you got Van Helsing and his son Adam. So Adam was the son. And basically, the situation was that they were trying to kill her. They were going to chase her down. They were going to kill her because she was like a vampire, and they're vampire hunters. And it turned out that she and Adam Van Helsing fell in love. And they had to come up with a cure for her so that they wouldn't have to murder her. So they gave her the vampire serum, this special serum that she could take that would prevent her from killing people. And that sort of set up a whole thing within the Vampirella lore within the magazines that was kind of important, because it always would be the case that she needed her serum, but it would either the vial would break or something would happen, and then she would have to kill the bad guy by drinking their blood. So that was a thing that happened a lot in the comics. So I like that little series within the first issues of Vampirella, because it set up so many things within the Vampirella lore. So that's and I did enjoy the Harris Vampirella. The later stuff for Vampirella, I've read a few things. I haven't really enjoyed it as much. I kind of like the campiness of the Vampirella from the magazine, and I found that they haven't really been able to recreate that. So for me, the Vampirella that I like the most is really the one from Warren Publishing. So that's kind of the way way it is with me. And I haven't read the Armageddon series. And what's my favorite Vampirella cover? Probably Vampirella either number 1 or number 50, where you have all the characters on it. Those I really, really do enjoy. I think number 1 Vampirella magazine is just a classic cover. It's a Fazetta cover. She's standing in front of a moon. It's kind of a cool cover. So yeah, so that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have a question you would want answered, put it in the comments below and I will do my best to answer it. I hope you enjoyed the 4K version of this video. And thanks again for watching. Bye for now.